What is up? This is Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talkhouse Podcast. Today I'm joined by...
Hello, it's Amy Rose Spiegel, Talkhouse Music's editor-in-chief.
Amy Rose, we have a hell of a show today. Two avant-garde composers who are pushing every boundary possible, William Basinski and Jlin.
This conversation is part of a series we curated for Northside Festival in Brooklyn, and we got these two in conversation in the Sonos room at Rough Trade.
Listeners, I have to tell you, Jlin is absolutely one of my favorite artists out there. She is just fantastic. Her records, including 2015's Dark Energy and last year's Black Origami, are flawless, and her live show, which often features dancers, just incredible. Jlin is out of and actually still lives in Gary, Indiana.
So for those of us who aren't near to that region, Gary is about an hour outside of Chicago. And Jlin is actually associated by some with the Chicago footwork scene, though she very much has her own sound.
She is, and she does, and I can see why. Now, both live and in her videos, Jlin incorporates just incredible dancers, some from the footwork tradition, some almost postmodern. Now, her music follows the same proximity in that you can hear some of the footwork influence, but she goes so much further. The rhythmic syncopations are at times closer to something like Autechre than they are to Four on the Floor. And I got to say, Amy Rose, we know that true artists do not do what they do for cosigns.
That's true, but in this case, I think you have a kind of special story to tell about Jlin.
I have had three amazing artists individually tell me just how much they love Jlin. Artist number one, the goddess Bjork.
Amazing.
Bjork absolutely loves Jlin. Artist two, David Harrington of Kronos Quartet.
Very sick.
Artist three, Laurie Anderson.
That's really not too bad if those people are giving you big ups, I think. You've got to be doing something right.
I mean, wow. So, listeners, as an example of the way that Jlin can seamlessly move through different sounds, check out Carbon 7 161. This is from last year's Black Origami. Amy Rose, am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think Laurie Anderson is wrong. I don't think Bjork is wrong. I don't think Kronos Quartet is wrong. I think that rules.
She's amazing. She is just amazing.
For sure.
And of course, the track Holy Child on that same record was a co-write with William Basinski.
Right, and Basinski is also a great ambient composer in his own right. He's best known for the Disintegration loops from 2002 and 2003. Maybe you know them, maybe you're a fan. I definitely am. On those records, he captured previously recorded tape from the 80s, and it was very fragile, so when he played it back over and over, it would disintegrate and kind of cease to be at the end. And it turned into like this beautiful chronicle about life and death. And every time I listen to the end of that, my heart just breaks.
It is just so devastating. It's so emotionally devastating. That, of course, is only amplified by the fact that so much of it is tied to his experience watching 9/11 from his rooftop here in New York.
Yeah, it's a very heartbreaking and poignant recording, which is why you and I think, were a little bit surprised when meeting Basinski. He was just this completely irreverent, funny person and blew our minds a little bit in that way, too.
We were shocked. We thought he was going to be a brooding academic composer. At least I did. We
were very pleasantly surprised. So his newest record is A Shadow in Time, which came out early last year, and it includes this beautiful tribute called For David Robert Jones, which is, of course, an homage to his hero, David Bowie. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
Amy Rose, I love your choice of track for this. When I listened to that, when it came out, I was very taken by the fact that William Basinski brought out his saxophone, which we hadn't heard for a little bit. Of course, David Bowie was so well known for playing sax himself. It sort of felt like a very personal element in the homage.
Totally. I love that he interpreted it that way.
Yeah. Well, very powerful stuff. And as we mentioned, listeners, this talk is unexpectedly funny. Jlin and Basinski take in all sorts of things, including what William Basinski called being creatively pregnant.
We hear about what equipment is in Jlin's studio, how she makes what she makes.
We hear about her collaborations with postmodern dancers.
And with William Basinski himself, like we mentioned on that great track called Holy Child.
And somewhat hilariously, we hear about how a big fat cat helped influence William Basinski's new record.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better muse, in my opinion. Most of all, you hear what camaraderie and warmth there is between these two, and it's kind of a pleasure to take in.
Should we roll it?
Let's do it.
First of all, I have to say William is a gem to start with. Like, I cannot tell you how much of a gem he is. When we met, it was actually quite on the fly, but it was so like time had stopped just for that moment because...
That's what I specialize in.
Yeah. So it was like time had just completely stopped because it was like the universe setting up to say, oh no, you guys have to work together. And when I first saw William, I actually met him through Preston Wendell, which is a member of the band. What did you always...
Sparkle Division.
Thank you so much.
Side, crazy side project with my my wonderful young engineer, Preston Wendell. And he turned me on to Jlin's music because I don't know anything about music or what other people do, especially what Jlin did, because I don't listen to that. But when I started hearing that, I was like, what? We got booked last summer at the Broad Museum, and they put us on a bill with Jlin. Preston was so excited. We're on the bill with Jlin. Oh my God. We went on, and then we got to go upstairs and catch hers, but we also got to hang out in the green room, and that's where we met.
That's where we met. And in that moment, it was like, in that moment of when we all met, I was like, I felt like I never hang with people when I'm on the road. Like, I'm usually, once I'm in my hotel room, I am there until it is time for the show. Or I have sound check and then I go back.
We had separate green rooms,
and
too.
we had separate green rooms, and I absolutely abandoned mine at this point and came in with Sparkling Division. I was so excited because I felt like I had known these guys, especially like William and Preston, for like years. It felt like I knew them. And I'm like, I told them, I said, I never do this. I never hang out. And so all of a sudden it's time for Preston and William, they're going on, and William puts on his sparkling jacket, and I was like, oh my God. I was just like, he throws his glasses on only like he can do. And and he just goes, and they're just like, and he's like, I'm ready. And they were gone. And so, and they were gone. So,
I was not ready, but I did it.
But but that's why I love you, because you always tell me I'm not ready. But every time I've heard you, you were more than ready. More than ready, for sure.
Mistakes were made, but we got through it. You know.
I didn't hear any.
Oh, God.
I didn't hear not one.
I haven't been in bands playing saxophone for years, so that was a bit of a scary gig for me.
Well, it was amazing for me because you guys played before it was my set time, and I was amazed, completely in awe. I was like, oh my God. And so when it was funny because after I finished playing, I remember before I even saw anybody and everybody clapped, William was right there. He just grabbed me and hugged me and said, oh my God, I had no idea.
It was so good. We were dancing our asses off. And that's another thing, I can't do more than 5 minutes anymore because I'm so damn lazy. But and sedentary like an old dog, diamond dog. That's what I... Same year as Prince and Michael Jackson and Madonna. I call it the year of the Diamond Dogs because they're all real sparkly. But we were dancing our asses off. And I hate techno music. Who can dance? Doom, boom, boom. How do you dance to that? Honey, I like to move,
Yes, I
and what you
understand.
do moves different parts of my body. Some of those footwork kids with all that stuff, they have rhythm in their bodies. These are Michael Jackson's grandchildren. They feel the music, and that's what I love to see.
Exactly.
Not some flaccid. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? I hate modern dance.
Do you really?
Most.
Do you really?
All that tired old Martha Graham crap. Give me a fucking break. This is modern dance. This is the new modern dance.
I understand exactly what you're saying, because when you're owning the movement, because I feel the same way about sound. That's why I think a lot of the music the way that I create exactly from that point, because it's like there's nothing wrong with tradition. I respect tradition quite a bit, but I also feel that there is a time, though. At what point do we say, let's step out of tradition? That's why, it's funny when people...
You did it, honey.
When people call you a minimalist, I have to always stop them. And I said, William's a maximist. Don't call him a minimalist.
It's true.
And I tell him, I said, if you listen to your sound, you maximize every piece of space. And not only do you maximize the space, it's almost like it gets to the point that the space and the time is no longer there. And that is what is important, because there's no restriction at that point. It's so to the infinity. And I love that.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah. I love that about your work. That's why I say when they're like, yes, minimalist William Basinski, I said, no, he's a maximist. I always say that. So I just wanted to know, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And one of the questions I have for you is, when you're going and you're producing and you're using those tape loops like that, how do you know when it's right? You know that feel and you say, this is exactly what I want? Or do you also have those moments where you get lost and you're like, I don't know what the hell's going on?
Well, working with the tape loops, you know immediately if it's going to work or not.
Okay.
You cut a piece of tape, and if there's something on it, you see what's on there, and it might be, change the speed, something like that. It might just blow your mind, or
Right.
it might be terrible. So, I have a lot of tape loops. They're not all good, but I have a lot of really good ones, and
Right. Yes, I know this.
and
to
I
be
like
true.
to, for me, I like to find that eternal moment. So
Right.
you don't really, in a certain parts of my work, you don't really notice that it doesn't become redundant, because you don't really notice that it's a loop.
Right.
And some of these loops are pretty short. They're like 12, 14 inches. For a loop that's short. Anyway. But yeah, in the process of what I do, particularly as time goes on, it gets harder.
Right.
Especially because there's so many people out there doing this kind of thing now, which is great. I love it. And there's a lot of really good ambient music coming out and stuff.
Right.
But like when I was first working on A Shadow in Time, I pulled my old Voyetra 8 synthesizer out of the garage where it had been since I moved from New York about 8 years ago, and pulled it in because I got rid of the guest room to put in my Studio B, my new digital studio, because when you live in California, guests come and they stay for a year. So that was not happening. So it's like, yeah, take the bed. Bye-bye. So anyway, pulled out the Voyetra thinking, I wonder. Turned it on, and it was like finding an old Starship Enterprise covered in dust on a planet somewhere with the keys in it. And you like turn it on.
My God.
And lights start coming on, and it's like the engines start firing up. And she fired up, and she was already doing something because she's got some problems, She's an old girl, some of the buttons stick and
Yeah.
shit like that. She was already like, I've been waiting 8 years to tell you something. I'm like, recording. And I love this. I love when chance things happen, or when somebody has an idea and it's not me.
Yeah,
Like
right.
machines telling me to do
Right.
You record it, bitch. They call that the ghost in the machine. So we got going along. And I started out with a little bit of a tail end of the end of Cascade. There was something going on there that I just left a little bitty bit of it on the CD. It's not on the LP version. And I kind of started with that, and then my Voyager was coming in with some stuff, and so we went with that, and then I started pulling in some other stuff, because you know how it is. Once you get a couple things, and then you're like, oh, I know I'm going to get this.
You know exactly,
I'm
right, yes.
I'm going to pop this in, and let's see what happens if we plop that in there.
Exactly. You sound like me, my God.
Yeah.
Yes,
my hair's standing on end. Yeah.
Yes, this is me.
That's a good sign.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's the feel you want. Exactly.
It's like joy, and excitement.
Yes.
So then I started going and, getting somewhere, and I was really excited because this is all new, mostly synth, not the same old thing I've been doing.
Right.
And I played it for my boyfriend, Jamie. And I was really excited. And he's like, oh, it sounds like everything else. I was like, what? What are you talking about? You haven't bought a record in 20 years. He's a huge record collector. Jamie worked in record stores in the 70s in Berkeley. He has thousands of records, and he loves music, and he'll buy stuff when he hears the stuff he likes on the phone. He makes playlists, does all that stuff. So I never had to do anything like that. Not that I was interested, but he had the nerve to say that to me. I'm like, you don't know anything about what's going on now. And then the next day, some really cool friends of mine from Italy, they make ambient music, and it's really good. And they sent me their new record to see if I could think of anyone who might want to release it. And I was like, oh. Like Salvador Dali used to say, you're plagiarizing my thoughts. And I was like, oh my God, Jamie was right. It sounds just like what they're doing. I was like, so I thought it was done. No, I had to go back in. And, but when it really came together was in January after Bowie died. I was invited to be in a little group show in a gallery about the size of this room we're in here. It's about 200 square feet or something like that. And it's just a 3-person show for a weekend. They wanted me to bring a tape loop on a deck. And I was trying to find a loop to put on a tape deck, and I couldn't find anything. It was like bottom of the barrel. So I pulled out some real bottom of the barrel stuff that the cat had chewed up from Arcadia. These were loops that were hanging on a boom stand. They were like next in line to be after the disintegration loops. And at that time, Jamie lived in California, and I had been going back and forth, and my roommate let this giant 40-pound Maine Coon cat from the Brooklyn Brewery, which was downstairs, come in. If you opened the door and that cat wanted to come in, he came in. It was like, oh my God, it's a fucking wild animal. And he could slash you to ribbons if you didn't let him in. So you let him in. Mr. Big Stuff, we called him. My roommate at the time, while I was gone, somehow the door to my control room was open, and the cat got in there, and sparkly things hanging down. Woo! Give me that! Yanked him down, chewed him up, probably peed on him, and, that was that. So I came home, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. That's my work. That cat is 86, and you're next. Anyway, I pulled out the chewed up stuff, cut off the chew marks on this one loop, spliced it together, put it on the deck, and it was definitely like one of the next in line for the disintegration loops, probably. So this is the first kind of string loop that comes in at the beginning for David Robert Jones. And I got really excited. I'm like, Preston, put that into Ableton. So he recorded it from the tape deck into Ableton. And then I went back and got the next one and cut it and put it on. Oh, and it's that crazy, gnarly saxophone thing that from something I did years and years and years ago. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be all the right kinds of wrong. So that came together. And so what we did was we had recorded it into Ableton, and then we recorded it back onto a little reel, which is much better for an installation because loops can break and nobody knows how to deal with it. You have to be there and monitor it, watch it, make sure it doesn't get chewed up in the machine. So I just gave them this little reel, 20 minutes long, and showed them at the opening how to just turn it over and thread it back because they don't know. You know, it's like, oh no, you just put it on,
Right.
get that in there, and then you just, put it back and turn it over. Made it on both sides so they could be easy. So they're like, oh, cool. So we went down there for the opening. There was like 700 people.
That sounds about right.
All out on the street. It was like, wow, this is crazy. And then they came all weekend and stuff. So it was real nice. But then when that was done, I got back into Shadow and Time, and I started to do a little blend of some stuff in here with that one, and then figured out how to get Shadow working, and then it came together. And then I started touring it, and then a year later, the record came out. So
Nice.
I always do everything backwards.
No, so do I. I never, for Dark Energy, actually, for Black Origami, I have to say, it's funny to hear you tell the story because I was so sick of Dark Energy, and I do mean sick. I'm still kind of tired of it. Yes, I did speak badly of my work, guys.
That's okay. We all hate certain things.
Yes, we all hate something. That is like, I know my label's like, that's not helping any type of album sales of any sort. But
that catalog always comes in when you make a hit record, girl. Don't worry.
And so
no matter what you say about it.
So I was at this time last year at the very beginning. I was just so over Dark Energy, and I just wanted to go into a space where I was like, I gotta
Excuse me,
get
that's
out.
called being pregnant.
You're right.
That's what I call it when you get sick of everything.
True.
Or depressed. Yes. Oh, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
I gotta have a baby.
But no, it was like exactly
Have this baby. This
Exactly.
me.
Yeah, but exactly. It was just like I wanted to get. I was like, I got to get out of this, and so
Or get this out of me.
Or get this out of me. Exactly, because a lot of people didn't realize with Dark Energy, some of those, I would say maybe over half of the records that were on Dark Energy, I had done 3 or 4 years before the album even came out. So I had made all of that, but that wasn't the current me when Dark Energy came out.
I understand. It takes a long time to get a record together, and
Exactly.
sometimes you get sick of it by the time it comes out.
Right. By the time it was out, I was over it. I'm not going to lie.
It's all new to other
But
people.
exactly, and I had to respect
But I
that.
understand that. This is what the problem we're having with Sparkle Division right now.
Yeah, it was like I had to learn to respect that. And so I was like, and it's a process. So what happened was Black Origami, the first track that I made was the actual track titled Black Origami. And so it was when I first started it, it was at the very intro of it, it was these sounds that I had never heard before. I was not familiar with them at all. And I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but we're going to try to make this work. And
I like this.
Yes, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but we got to make this work.
Jack this car up, get some wheels on it.
Exactly. Let's see what we can do. So it was just like, I started it, and then all of a sudden, just like you said, you kind of, it's like chemistry. Or you being a chef, you start adding the seasonings. You saying this works, okay, no, this doesn't work, and you're adding and taking away, and so now I do Black Origami, and the record is done. And so I remember I sent it to my partner, one of the people that I collaborate with. She collaborates with me through Movement, and I sent it to Avril. And I said, what do you think about this? And she's like, I said, because I actually designed this record. I designed this track literally after the way that you dance. So what do you think about it? She writes me back, we on the phone, and she tells me, I'm completely intimidated. I will never dance to that track. I said, what? And I said, she's like, I will never dance to that track. I'm totally intimidated by it. I was like, are you serious? I was like kind of upset, but then kind of not. So then the next track I did was Carbon 7. And so I started it off, and everybody always says Carbon 7 has my nervous energy, especially the intro. And so I started this track off, and then there's this section where the bass drops. Like that. Now the track is coming in, and then the bass drops. And so I remember the first time when I hit that part, it made the hair on my arm stand up. And I was in my room. I would never.
Child, you don't have no hair on your arm.
I do have hair on my arms. So they make the hair on my arm stand up, even though William doesn't believe I have hair.
Baby hair.
Okay, my baby hairs, yes.
But this still tickles.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I just stopped it. It was like at 1:37, and I sent it to Avril again. I said, "What do you think?" She said, "My stomach is in knots. What did you just do?" And I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "I love this. Oh my God, keep going. Do not send it back unless you're done." And so I said, okay. So I said, okay. So
That
she's
got you cleared that up.
Right. So she's like, "Don't send it back unless you're done." I said, okay. So I go and I finished this record, and she's like, and I sent it to her, and she was like, "Oh my God." She's like, she said, I hope you know you're on a roll so far. And I'm like, oh, I was like, yeah, that's cool. But at that time, I wasn't trying to make an album. I was just trying to get away from dark energy. So I didn't know I was making an album at that time. I had no idea this is what was happening. And so...
So what in the hell did you think you was
I don't
doing?
know what I was thinking. I don't know
You're
what
just
I was
making work,
thinking.
making
just
work.
making work.
Yeah,
Exactly,
I
just
know,
making work.
I know.
And you're trying to. And I was digging for something. I was actually digging to. I had gotten to this phase where I was
Exploring.
like completely exploration. I wanted to make time and space disappear musically. And so I said, I have to get to this. I have to dig. So fast forwarding through some of the tracks, then we hit the bomb of bombs. And this is where you come in. Because I remember when I needed to, my album deadline was coming up. And I was like, remember I was texting you. I said, can you send me something?
Now, when was that? Was that like November?
That was like November. Yeah. That was like November. Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. And I'm like, "Hey, William, my album's coming up. I would love for you to be on my record." And you're like, "Yeah, you kind of did me like Holly. You were like, I'll send you some stuff and you do your thing." And I said, okay. And so what you sent me, I was like, completely, that was the first time that I have ever felt intimidated by something and hearing it. Really, I'm serious. Because I had never, you had sent me these loops and they were beautiful. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because there can be so many different variations.
Oh, you were like, if I do my thing, William's going to hate it because I ruined him all.
I ruined them all. Right, exactly. I ruined it.
No.
So I started the process.
You just did it right.
3 days it took me to get the intro to this thing going. I mean, I remember I erased this Holy Child. I didn't even know it was called Holy Child at the time. I just remember erasing this untitled project so many times for 3 days. I had gotten completely frustrated. I told Avril, and telling my mom, I'm in the house fuming because I can't get this thing started. And so then I almost wrote to you and said, could you send me something else? Because this is not working for me at all.
I would have been like, bitch, work. You make it work. I don't care what you do, but you make that work. That's all I got.
Because I was like,
I sent you the best stuff I had.
You're right. You really did. And I was like, and I said, what? I was like, no, this is what I have. I'm going to make it work. And so I remember sitting there, and then all of a sudden, that moment, you start, and it's like, okay, I can work with this. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait, I can definitely work with that. And then that third hit, I said, oh, this is it. I got it. I know exactly where to go.
That's when you called me.
Yeah, that's
when you called me like, William, I'm onto something.
I'll
call you back.
Right, I was like, I'm onto something. I call you back. I gotta go. And so you're like, okay. And then, what was it, like 3 days later, I'm sending you, 3 days later, I sent him, I said, here you go, here's the track. I said, let me know what you think when you get a chance. And you were like, all I remember is I got a text. You said, "Call me now," in all caps.
Oh no, that could go any which way, but
It was like, "Call me now," in all caps, OMG. And I said, uh-oh. I was like, now this could be good, but this could be bad too.
we only met once. You didn't know me that well.
Right, I didn't know him that well. I was like, I don't know if that's good or bad. Let's see. Let me just call and see. So I call him, and he's like, what the hell? How did you pull that out of that? And I was like, I don't know. What do you think? He's like, I love it. Are you crazy? Like, a lot of people don't know. I have to share this now, but I'm going to have to say this. I know that track sounds like it's saying Holy Child. I know it does. And the thing of it was, what William sent me is not even in English. And the fact that it sounds like it's saying Holy Child.
The way you sampled it.
The way that I did it, right? The way that I sampled
it's amazing.
He was just like, oh my God, how did you? It sounds like Holy Child. And I was like, no. But it's no.
Did that just, your sample?
The way that
and all of a sudden it's saying Holy Child. This is going to be for my friend.
Exactly, and it was.
See?
It was
Same
exactly.
thing with the David Bowie piece.
See, this is why I love you. Oh. And so, but yeah, it's just like, I know those aha moments you're talking about, and I feel like when you're creative, the birth of when you're giving birth to something, it is never painless. It is always the most dreadful birth that you can possibly come across.
Not always. Some babies just pop out smiling and they're great.
How rare is it? How rare?
That's rare.
Exactly. How rare is it?
But you love those babies more than the cry babies and the awful ones that just take forever and practically kill you.
Yes, that's true.
And that's why there are favorites in families.
That's true.
Okay, kids. So get over it.
That's true. 90 was seamless for me, I have to say. That's true. That's very true. So what do you want to ask me?
I wanted to ask you something. How the fuck do you do what you do? Now, you're obviously a master percussionist, right? I mean, you went to marching band and in school programs and all that, playing drums and everything?
I didn't do any of that. Okay, I have to explain this. This is a question I get asked all the time.
Because your rhythm is spot on and perfect.
Well, I have this. Well, thank you.
And I know because I am a trained musician and I hate when something's like off. Well, unless it's the right kind of off, but that's rare.
I have to say, I guess in the words of Miles Davis, I woke up black.
I get it, baby.
I woke up.
I love Supreme. There's John Coltrane right there on the wall.
Yes, I think, part of, for when I honestly have to say, because I get that question, in sincerity, I think a lot of it is being of African descent. It is naturally the rhythm of drums is that is what we are.
Oh, it's genetic.
Yeah,
okay.
it's genetic.
But not everybody can pull it off like you do.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
You got it flowing out of your body onto the computer. How then do you do it? I mean, what are you using? Are you using Ableton?
I'm using FL Studio is my primary, but I also use Reason as well. Like if I'm going back to master a track or equalize.
That's what I want to talk about too, because your production values are absolutely flawless. Every sound is clear and in its own space. I'm really jealous. I want to come and learn how you do that in your studio. I mean, you don't have like a big studio.
I don't
with
like a lot of
perfect speakers.
No, but I don't like.
Do you use headphones? How do you do it?
No, I have speakers, and I'll tell you my whole setup. I actually have Genelec, the 8020s, and I have a RME, which is a lifesaver. Is
that a subwoofer?
It's
a subwoofer?
The Genelecs are the speakers, and then the RME sound card. That's that's my interface.
Your interface,
yes.
Okay.
So that's what I use. But a lot of the thing of it is, it takes a lot of maturity in your hearing over the years. And I'm sure, as a composer, you know that. Like,
I know.
Yeah, composer to composer. Really, it does. The maturity of your hearing is everything.
But when you get to be my age, your hearing goes bad. And then you have to rely on your young engineer, and he hears things differently. And you got to fight over what you want. It's terrible.
Well, no, but the thing about it, the beauty of that is that you have a different perspective besides your own, because sometimes
everyone hears things differently.
Exactly, and everybody hears things differently. So for me, when I'm making a decision to know like that something is right, a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you listen to something of your own, because knowing your own sound is everything. And I think in order to know your own sound, you have to know yourself first. And that's more important than knowing your sound, because if you go out there completely blind, if not knowing yourself, your first initial reaction is probably going to be to sound like someone else. And, so it's just like, for me...
Well, everyone has inspirations and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then you have to find your own way.
You have to,
like
exactly.
you've done, obviously.
Well, thank you.
But the production on the record, everything in its own space, and, do you just send that to them and then they're like, okay, mastered and done?
Yeah, well, usually, honestly, one of the things that we had, there were several things that happened when Black Origami was done. Once I send the record, it's usually pretty clean because they trust me to actually go ahead and just equalize it down. It's very minimal.
How do you tell? I mean,
well I usually tell.
My room is, let me just tell you this. My room, I'm in this little bedroom now. It's, half the size of this room. It's like a 12 by 12 room. Mm-hmm. And, we don't hear the subs. We don't hear, so we have a tendency to have, like, you walk down the hall and it's like, oh, there's the bass.
Right.
Whoa. So we have a tendency to be a little bottom heavy and stuff. How do you do that with what you do? You just, you know your frequencies? I mean, did you study physics and engineering and stuff?
I didn't.
Because it sounds like you did.
No, I know. I get this question all the time. And no, I did. Honest to God, I did not. And one of the secrets that I do is, maybe this will help you. When I'm going back and doing a playback, I stand behind the speakers, not in front. Because the reason what happens is
then you're hearing a lot of like more bass and stuff.
No, because you have to remember all the sounds are coming out. Sometimes a woofer is not necessary, and I'm actually quite against the woofer.
Yeah,
I think because I enjoy clarity over bass, because I've heard some great tracks, but because they were so bass heavy, it was like, what the hell were we doing?
It's just a big cloud.
It's a big cloud.
Blows out. You put it on in your
Exactly.
car, and your speakers are blown.
Exactly. It's like, I would rather, I have a thing, CPU, which is clean, precise, and unpredictable. And
oh, hello, girl. I'm down with that.
That is what. So that is.
Come and help me with my mix.
Absolutely, I can. I've actually had.
You got to come to California.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to.
If you ever get a break from touring,
I know if they.
And I'm there.
Yes. And what about you? I know you're not talking. But yeah, it's a matter of really the clarity of, you have to operate, especially if your space is small. You don't buy like really big speakers. You go in,
They're not.
They're not.
No.
What kind of speakers do you have?
Oh shit, I can't remember. I'm not a tech geek. Preston told me what I was looking at the Genelecs, but then I bought these. I'll let you know later. I can't remember what they are, but they're the same. Little studio monitors, and they sound good.
Okay.
But I was just in Berlin at my friend Carsten Nicolai's studio, and he has these big, giant, fancy-ass, I don't even know what they are either, speakers, and you get full range and bass response and everything out of these things. So it was interesting to hear a difference.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting to hear a difference. And also, too, I don't like colored speakers.
When they have a sound.
They have a sound because
you want a flat.
You want them, exactly. You want them to be, you want the honest sound. Not, you know what I'm saying? Because,
because then you never know.
Exactly, because then you never know.
You gotta have another set of speakers and then you're confused.
Exactly. And then you put your sound in the car and it sounds nothing like it does.
Well, you gotta do all that too, don't you?
Yeah,
do you do that?
I do. Yeah, I do. I go through a whole process. I really do. I have issues. The car, the house.
Do you have a friend with a studio you can go pop something in and listen to?
No, I usually don't do that. Once between the car, my head, if I play it back in my headphones, I'm okay.
That's good.
It's pretty.
That's 3 ways to see.
3 ways to see.
I mean, this is mainly how people are going to hear it.
Exactly.
So if it sounds good, it's going to sound good.
Exactly. To me, I don't like a lot of things. If you could do things in a minimum space, and you still get that same bold expression of sound, that's great. Because
that's what I love about this record. They're so open. There is so much space in it.
Yeah.
In between the beats and the way you choose to bring in your samples of your voices. And I mean, it's just got, you are a brilliant composer. And darling, I think you're like the daughter of Steve Reich in a way.
Thank you.
That was because he was a drummer and he started out with these tape loop things, it's gonna rain and come out to show them and doing these phase shifting stuff with that. And he was a drummer. So then he went and learned about all these African drums and gamelons and all this sort of stuff. And then
it definitely takes research.
Then he came out with Music for 18 Musicians, which just blew everyone away, where he had orchestrated these phase-shifting kinds of things that he was doing with tape loops and with instruments. And we were all just mind-blown when that came out when I was a kid in college. But I think you're one of his descendants, darling.
Thank you. I appreciate
so
that.
So fly, bitch. Take us with you. Don't leave us here.
And there you have it, listeners, a glimpse into the minds of two of today's most important composers. Amy Rose, what a talk.
Yeah, really incredible. Thank you again to Rough Trade for hosting.
Shouts.
And thank you to Jlin and William Basinski for being geniuses.
Shouts.
Very funny geniuses.
Shouts to Sonos for having us in their room at Rough Trade. A fantastic setup there.
For more Talkhouse, make sure to visit us at talkhouse.com, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Talkhouse.
If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe. While you're there, rate and review. Every time you do, it helps someone else find the podcast. Upcoming episodes include Jenn Wasner, she of Y Oak and Flock of Dimes, in conversation with Jana Hunter of the wonderful Lower Dens, and Suicide's Martin Rev in conversation with Julianna Barwick.
Thanks so much for listening, as always, and we'll see you next time.
Till then.
Bye.
But hurry up. You're missing everything. Start the goddamn thing.
I love him. Oh my God, I love him.
Jesus.